Hey everybody, Jimmy with the Triple C Collective, and
Hey everyone, I'm Eddie, Jimmy's little brother.
yeah, brother Eddie. So he decided to join us today for commentary track for Thanksgiving. This is something that we saw in theaters over obviously the Thanksgiving holiday, but it just came out to digital streaming and everything. So we rewatched it and decided to do a commentary track for it. Um, Before we dive in, I want to give a shout out to Horrible Things Film Club. They're on Instagram. They gave me a they did a giveaway for Thanksgiving poster, which I won, which is excellent, and I'll throw up a picture of my poster here. But when I opened my poster and I got it from them, you can go follow Horrible Things on IG, or they also have their Patreon, patreon.com/horrible things, or just on IG Horrible Things. Um, and they are so I want a poster from them. Want to give them a shout out for it. It's really great, really exciting. But with that, they also gave me a second poster. So with that being said, we will do a giveaway for that poster. It is an 11 by 17, and if you comment on the video and are subscribe. If you comment on the video, that's how you get entered. Hashtag no more leftovers. That's what we want the comment to be. Hashtag no more leftovers. If you're a subscriber, you get a second entry. So that's how it'll work. And we will close this out on January. What am I looking at here? January 10th, maybe, I think. Does that sound right? Does that sound no? January 13th is when we'll put this out. We'll have this out for 2 weeks, and on January 13th, I'll announce a winner. Or January 13th, it ends. January 14th, we'll announce the winner. Anyhow, let's dive back into commentary track. So, Eddie, this is the first time you've been on here. Appreciate you coming on. I don't know, man. We've been seeing movies. I've been dragging you to movies since I don't know. I could drive, basically,
Yeah,
right? Sound
yeah,
about right?
yeah. I believe Expendables was one of the first ones, which I don't know if mom and dad were too
Oh
happy
yeah,
about that,
that
but
yeah, that wasn't a good experience for you.
yeah,
The dude gets like incinerated within that first like 3 minutes of that movie, and you turned to me and you were like, "I'm a little scared," and I was like, "Yeah, I might have messed up here. We messed up times that day. We were supposed to see Scott Pilgrim versus the World." So, which is way more in the
yeah,
wheelhouse of like I don't know the 6-year-old or 8-year-old that you were then,
yeah,
and yeah, but we just carried on, punished on to Expendables.
yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't a good decision on my part. I'm sorry. um, but let's dive in. And Thanksgiving has been a movie that I've actually been waiting for a long time. It originally started as the fake trailer for Grindhouse back in Grindhouse, the for the fake trailers with Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino. Wonderful stuff. Thanksgiving was great. That Thanksgiving trailer, though, is not really what we see in this movie here, and I'm cool with that. Because what we saw in that original trailer was a very 70s grimy, like grindhouse looking trailer. What we get today, which is something that I really like, is a modern horror flick, a modern slasher, like kind of who done it, basically. And like that's really cool. It was something that I really liked about it. How about yourself? Just briefly
Yeah,
before we dive in.
I mean, a thing I really liked about it is it kind of reminded me of Scream, where you really didn't know who the killer was, and it could have been like almost anyone that showed up on the screen. It really kept you guessing throughout. The second time watching, it gave you the clues, which I think a lot of movies do when you don't know who did it. You see the clues the second time, but overall, I thought it was suspenseful and pretty good mystery.
Yeah, excellent. Um, but yeah, so that's a little bit of my personal history with it. I've been waiting like 15 years to see this movie come through because originally, like, Robert Rodriguez controlled Machete, which was a fake trailer that was also in there. So he made Machete. And then everybody was like, oh my God, Rob Zombie, Werewolf Women of the SS, when are we getting you? Yeah, Edgar Wright, when are we getting Don't from you? Eli Roth, Thanksgiving, when is it happening? And 15 years later, we're getting it. So I'm pretty excited for that. But this whole idea, the whole opening of the movie is great, though. It opens
Oh
with
yeah,
a Black Friday, basically massacre. Like let's not let's not pull any punches here. It's a Black Friday event, as it's been just crazy events. Like, I mean, even in our lives, like we see people get stomped and trampled and stuff, or at least previously before the pandemic, we saw a
yeah.
lot of that. I don't know if it necessarily has been as crazy due to that, just because people weren't allowed to be out and stuff like that, or it wasn't safe to be out. Um, but here, man, like the setting of the table, for lack of a better phrase, here is great. We get introduced to everybody in their different homes. You know, we get the town and everything. We get all of our main players, and then we get the Right Mart, which is just any typical big old box store
Yeah.
set up for us. And so, what did you think of this? Of setting this movie, the opening it during a Black Friday event, calling it Thanksgiving? Um,
Well, I thought it was awesome because going into it, I didn't really know exactly what the motive of the Thanksgiving killer was going to be.
yeah.
And so like setting it up with the Black Friday, I think makes perfect sense. Like you're supposed to be like Thanksgiving, like that was one of the things, like Thanksgiving, not thanks buying. It was like a whole thing in the
Hmm.
movie. So I kind of like that. I just think it was a great way to get the motive, and it just set the mood. Like the kills in the Black Friday scene are ridiculous. So just really
Hmm.
set the tone for the movie of what was going to come.
So let's talk about it. Those opening kills that we get. So some of the people we meet Jessica, her boyfriend Bobby. Bobby is a baseball phenom who gets his arm bent into like five different
Like
places. It
yeah,
looks
almost like
like
mutilated. It's ridiculous.
it is something out of a Connect that you're just like do 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 do, and you just bend it, and that was crazy. We also get the security guard, man,
Trampled.
trampled, and like, how about even before he gets trampled, where you start seeing the glass
Yeah.
spider web shed or like spread and like shatter on the doors there, like that was really cool. That was a neat little effect that they did and everything. And then you get the then we also have our good old dummy jock Evan, right?
Yeah.
Taking his girlfriend's camera and video and like showing it and like showing everything that's going on in the or going on in this craziness.
Mhm.
Um, one of the things that is also like just wild is how the girl Jessica is just like, oh yeah, we can sneak into the store on Black Friday and like hurry up, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
No, this like all of this is just a series of bad decisions, like top to
Yeah.
bottom.
And then yeah, you get all the people pissed. So the guy from Hanover
Yeah,
steals the like little mic or whatever and has everyone storm the doors because he was
right.
pissed.
And like basically incites that riot. Dude, how about the one dude who gets his neck cut on the glass that like he's in
Yeah.
like a Penguins jersey or something? And these are all for waffle makers because it's like the free gift at like
Yeah.
the doorbuster deal or whatever. That was wild. And then you get what's her name? Oh,
And
Gina Gershon.
yeah.
Her she plays Amanda Collins in it, and so her death the first time I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Second
Nasty.
time second time watching it, I was like, did she really die from that?
Yeah, I also thought it was a little weird because she like lost like 1/8 of her scalp, which I don't know exactly how she died, but it was still it was kind of nasty nonetheless. I
I
thought
mean,
that
it
the
really was.
first time
I would
watching it,
assume
the first time watching it, I thought they were gonna take her whole scalp. I was like, that's gonna be a
same,
way to set the tone. Like,
same. I was like, oh, and you know what? There might have been a cut where like she loses the whole thing, and then they were like X rating.
yeah,
And then he
yeah,
was like, all right, well then we'll just do the little bit. We'll do the second take of the little bit coming off.
yeah,
But that's like still a great, like really cringe inducing, like, oh my god, like just kind of cringe inducing thing is like her whole death there. Like that sucks. Like she gets her head basically gets pinned between the two shopping carts. Like
And
she
then the
gets
hair
nailed
gets
that way,
stuck on the
and then
wheel.
her hair gets caught into the wheel or like the spoke kind of like the cart, and then as they like drive off or like take their carts in different directions, these two people that just ran it is you assume that they just ran into or they feel that they ran into each other because I got now like I don't know, maybe this is nitpicky about asking about how people die in a horror film. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
going in here too much and thinking too much about this, but I also got the feeling like I don't think their carts actually hit, so they would have
yeah,
just hit her head. I feel like hitting somebody's head over a cart feels different. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that would have because nobody checks down to see what happens, like
yeah,
about that or anything like that, and then they're just off, going off
yeah,
into their way and whatnot. And like to be fair, the one lady in it turns out to be the waitress and our first kill
yeah,
when we get our 1 year later jump. And so, like, without basically further ado, let's do that. So we have this huge massacre. Everything happens. There's a few deaths. We get a 1 year later like title card, and we get the killer, like who I gotta say I love the name John Carver.
yeah.
Great name.
Awesome.
It's a great name. Great name for a Thanksgiving killer. Like John Carver, amazing. But even John Carver, I guess in the story is based off of New Plymouth's first like mayor or whatever, deputy mayor or something like that. And but we start out we get the classic serial killer like newspaper clippings all over the room where they've been doing their own research about stuff, putting all the everything together and setting the table for who's all gonna make it and who's not gonna make it now. And like I just love it. I just love it. You see the conspiracy being built up more and more. It's just great stuff. Again, we learn about like John Carver because we get that nice little diner scene. We meet the waitress again in that thing. We get like Jess and Evan and Gabby and their group of friends there. And they're like, "Oh, we're ready to order now." And she's like, "Ha, you're still gonna have to wait," because
Yeah.
she saw them sneak in from holding a grudge
For a year about a Black
for a
Friday sale.
year about them getting into a store while you still got your like waffle iron maker
And killed a
thing
woman.
and killed a woman is like absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Like insane. But I mean, hey, I get oh god, whatever. Um, but so now I'm going to take another little break, do some little history about this movie. A little background: Eli Roth and Jeff Rendell, the guys who wrote it. Eli Roth directed it. They're originally from the Boston area, from Boston, Massachusetts. They Thanksgiving, I guess, is a huge thing over there in Boston. Like I mean, it's a huge. I feel like it's a huge thing everywhere in America. Kind of, maybe not recently, but previous to that, I always thought it was a pretty big holiday. They always had the Macy's Day Parade and everything like that. Like we always saw that and everything. Um, but this whole idea comes from them being from Boston and being like, why is there like My Bloody Valentine? Why is there Black Christmas? Why is there all these other horror movies? Why is there Leprechaun? It doesn't take place over St. Patrick's Day, but it's close enough
Yeah.
to it. Like, so why isn't there something for Thanksgiving, something for like us? So that was the whole reason why they set this here in Boston, in New Plymouth, and giving and having John Carver, whose costume is very pilgrimy. He's
Oh,
very
his
much so.
costume was his costume's scary too. For
Yeah,
like the mask is
it's
freaky.
weird.
The costume is cool.
Also, the other thing that I really like, his weapon of choice,
Oh yeah, the axe. Come on.
axe. Great
Yeah,
weapon. Great
yeah.
weapon. It's I like it more than a knife or a machete that you get from or like even Freddy Krueger's claws. An axe. You don't always see that.
Mm-mm.
It always does some damage, and it's going to be a bloody good time.
It also
Um,
leads to suspense when like they always swing the axe and it gets caught in something. You're like, oh, they're gonna get it out. Like
is it gonna work? Is it gonna work?
yeah,
Yeah. But let's dive into that first kill. So we stay at the diner basically because it was like, dinner time or whatever, maybe lunchtime. And we get that waitress. She's closing down shop. Same waitress that we saw pushing the cart earlier. And basically she gets John Carver shows up and starts slashing at her. She gets her like hand cut. He puts her head.
That was
Dude,
one of the most creative kills I think I've ever. Well, he didn't technically kill her there, but still, that was one of the most creative things I think I've ever seen a killer do. Stuff her face in a sink and stick it to a freezing cold freezer.
yeah, to the cold freezer, and then like her peeling herself
Yeah,
off and stuff. Like, oh,
yeah,
oh, it's so gross, but I love it.
yeah. A lot of the
Um,
kills in this movie were pretty gross.
so like here's the thing, like Eli Roth just knows how to do that stuff. Like
Yeah,
the guy comes from doing like Hostel and Cabin Fever and everything, so like he's no he's not shy. Excuse me, to the blood or the gore or anything like that, or getting the great makeup or special effects in there. And that is something that I absolutely loved about this movie, is that yeah, the kills and stuff are not like pulled or anything. Like they're really great, they're really awesome. um but then we also get the chase, like of her like running out into the parking lot, and then you again, John Carver chasing her down in a car, and she jumps into the dumpster and then gets sliced in half. This was another thing that, like, in theater, I know we were both like, oh, but both of us were like, on the second rewatch, does that really happen?
yeah. And the second time, like the first time I watched it, I was like, I don't even know how that worked. And then the second time I watched it, I was like, I don't think it would work.
Yeah,
Like,
but it's still a fun kill.
yeah, no, it's still sick to watch though,
So
nonetheless.
like, so it is one of those things. But it's so great. And then we get the like, the body shows up at the on the Right Mart sign, and then they start getting tagged in like the viral video with their names all on like the little nameplates and stuff there
Yeah.
from John Carver and everything. Um, and then we also kind of start getting into like a little bit more of the meat and potatoes of it, because it's like this this death now clearly is stemming from last year.
Hmm.
We had all those newspaper clippings and everything to show it.
And now you have a list of like potential victims too with that picture
Yeah,
of the table. So you know like who's coming next.
yeah, exactly. It's basically giving you a rundown of who to expect and who you will see next. And then we get the we get like weird bits from the sheriff, of being like, I'll keep all info between us. Bobby ghosts her for a year, is like just like, hey, I'm here, and then she's like,
Oh yeah, and then
this
she
is
starts
the
revealing the beans. That I didn't really. The first time I watched it, I didn't even notice. And then the second time I was like, she was with him for all of 30 seconds and then just like revealed that her stepmom was like committing a crime. Like
yeah, like they and like, so I agree, that's a tough bit. That's a tough bit. That like I like, it's obvious that she still has like feelings of some kind
hmm.
for him, because like she is kind of like, oh my god, like he's back, where has he been, like, and kind of has all of these like questions like that. But I did feel like for a dude who she like constantly repeats throughout this time is like, he ghosted me over a year ago, like what do I want with him now and stuff, like she was really quick to be like, oh no, this is like this is Kathleen did this. She
Yeah.
deleted the footage, all the security footage, because she was worried about being sued and lawsuits and everything. But there's a backup at my
Yeah.
house.
Yeah. If you tell one
What?
of the people that hasn't been there for a year. Also, a few minutes earlier in the movie, she thought she saw him. She pointed out to a friend. They thought it was him. But then she mentions that to Bobby. She goes, "Oh, hey, like I thought I saw you at the diner." And he's like, "Oh, no, I got here like this morning." So kind of just like a little like weird. Like you
Yeah.
don't know when he really got there. Did he get there earlier and he didn't tell you? And then you just kind of start releasing all the information you have? I don't know. But
Yeah. No, it sets up Bobby to be like pretty
oh
suspicious
yeah.
for sure. And like we definitely know he's got motive, because he's saying like he might, there's a slight chance he might have a chance to throw again, but they don't know.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, dude, like it's it's insane. It's
Yeah.
insane. That she was just so quick to that. Then we get the second kill, which is the security guard. During the massacre and stuff, this is the big boy security guard who just books it. The other security guard was sent inside the store and he got trampled. His name was Doug. This guy though, he uh he's just at his house getting ready to leave.
Yeah.
Like he started seeing the like killing or whatever and was like, I'm out. Like I need to get out, and he's trying to go on a vacation here. And then he's like got his passport and stuff down, and then boom, he turns and it's gone. And this is something that you had a little bit more of an issue about that passport thing than I did. While I support you of being like it's annoying, definitely didn't annoy me nearly as much. But talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, it doesn't take away from the movie really. Same with like the dumpster kill, because like
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
they don't
yeah.
take away from the movie really, but it's like he looks out the window. He put his passport down on a table, like about 6 feet behind him. He looks out his window. He turns around and the passport's not there, and it's like you couldn't hear the person standing 6 feet behind you like pick up the passport, and then he's nowhere to be seen. So like, where did he come from, and where did he go to grab the passport? But again, that's kind of nitpicky on the second time around, because the first time around it was suspenseful, I think.
No, right? Because like you're like, oh God, where'd it go? Because there's one shot where the guy walks past something and they give you a slight hint that Carver's in his apartment before you see that passport thing. And
Mm.
on the second watch, I saw it, and it's just a quick little thing. Like he walks past like a doorway, and if you actually look to the left side of the screen a little bit, you see like the outline, like shadowed outline of a hat and like a little bit of the mask, like just
Oh,
slightly.
okay.
It's there for like 3 seconds or less
Yeah.
on screen, but like again, once you see that, it gets taken, and we're just off to the races. Then,
Yeah.
how about how he dies though, man? He
Oh,
gets that.
so cool.
He gets the like razor wire and just
Yeah.
decapitates him. Oh
And then
my
the
god!
blood starts shooting out like it's a hose. Like, yeah.
Yeah, wild, insane. But then we got the table being set.
Yeah.
We've got the upper half of the waitress because that's the other thing. As much as we saw her lower half of the legs and stuff on the right marked sign, nobody knew where her upper half was. Well,
Yep.
now they do know. She's at the table with the security guard from another video dropped by John Carver being like, the table is being set. And
Yeah.
here are your players. Like officially announcing if you didn't get it from now, like if you didn't get it before
Yeah.
that this is all related from last year and stuff, be ready now because it's here. And then we've got a little bit of the cops, and cops are like, we can't trace him because every time he turns on his phone and then he turns it off and then he turns it on in the new location already, so we can't like track where he's going or where he's been. It's just we get those pings of like where the phone is actually active. And the only lead they have is Cordage Park lead because they found some like brick residue that's only found in those old buildings in Cordage Park that were like built there or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, but then this gets kind of crazy here too. Jessica finds the footage, full footage at her dad's apartment and everything. Bobby's there, like the cars in the driveway. Her boyfriend now Ryan, it like drives by. Bobby and Ryan obviously don't get along because
Yeah.
we gotta have tension between them. And but they also set up Ryan as a possible
I
killer
was
as
gonna
well.
say they did a great job deflecting
Bobby and Ryan as
who you would think is the killer. Like, obviously, Bobby, because like his arm and everything clear, and then he comes back and it's all kind of a weird situation when he comes back and he's like angry and kind of beefing with some people, kind of weird. And then Ryan, yeah, clearly is like pissed off at Bobby, and just like there's like some scenes where like you see and he just has like an angry face or like some kind of like weird remark, and it's like, oh, he's kind of off.
yeah, yep. Exactly. And like that's also man, there's just little things like that that are great in this movie, and that's just one of them. But then they go back to the sheriff and they're like, "Hey, Lionel is always the turkey in the parade. That's the Hanover South kid, Larry or Lonnie. That's probably cheerleader girlfriend of his. And then they're like, then she's like, the guy hugging the security guard, Doug, there, that's Ryan Baker.
Hmm.
And so that sets up the whole thing of like, ooh, what was he doing off to the side with the
Yeah, because he said he didn't know anyone there, which he lied about clearly because he knew that guy who died. So
right. He obviously knew him. And um which to be fair, we find out later on that like Doug was selling Ryan Adderall.
yeah,
And,
so he
that's and
maybe didn't know him that well. Like,
I mean, to be fair, Ryan does say when he's confronted about it later on, he does say, like, I was there with Scott, who's his buddy, who
mhm.
is the contact with McCurdy, who's the dude who's running all the parties and everything like that. So, in theory, it checks out, but it definitely is like, he has some questions from it. Got some
Yeah.
questions about it. Um, and then we find out that same guy, Scott, did a paper for Evan and is given a plagiarized paper by the teacher that the teacher actually did herself, which is absolutely hilarious that that happens. And I absolutely, it's so funny that that happens, dude.
Well, I think a huge part of the movie is that it could have been a very dark movie, especially with how the deaths were. Like they were gory and freaky. It could have been a dark movie, but they kept it kind of light with some of the comedy, which I liked. Like there are definitely some funny scenes in there for sure.
Right, which goes back to a little bit more of what you're saying about like that Scream vibe
Yeah,
and
because
stuff.
Scream is funny, like, but it does
Yeah,
have that kind of ooh, like I don't like who's
I mean,
Ghostface?
like Scream's scary, like, and the
Yeah.
deaths in there are messed up. Like you said, like Drew Barrymore is hanging from a tree, gutting,
Oh yeah.
like, and that's how that movie opens.
Yeah.
Henry Winkler, the Fonz, ends up hanging from a goalpost.
Yep.
So yeah, like you see some messed up stuff. It's great. It's great. Um, and yeah, so then we get a set piece here, which is pretty awesome. From the original trailer, and this is something that for me personally that I've been waiting for a long time to see here.
Mm.
I've been waiting for it because in the original trailer, we see a cheerleader jumping on a trampoline and then an onlooker in the trailer in the original trailer. It's just an onlooker gets his like neck broken and stuff and like head turned around. It's great. And but in it you see a knife pop out from the trampoline screen, and for 15 years I have been wondering what happens next, and needless to say I have found out, and
Yep.
it's great. I really like this. This didn't play out exactly how I originally thought because I had 15 years of myself to play with my mind of it. But in the end, like I freaking loved it. Like
Yeah.
this scene was really good. It is still cringe worthy. Like, dude, when you
Oh, dude, he slices her Achilles almost. Like,
yeah, slices her Achilles, slices her hand, and then gets like two good, like a stab in the stomach and like another stab in the back or whatever too.
yeah.
Ugh. Um, and like you see her jumping around doing the splits and stuff, and like landing doing the splits. I always thought she was gonna land on the knife while doing the splits. For the
Yeah.
last like 15 years.
That's why I don't know if it was a pulled punch because it was still kind of hard to watch, but uh,
Yeah, I
I
don't know.
feel like if it was her doing the splits, it would have been like, wow.
Again, I think that's another one of those X ratings right
Yeah.
away. like,
Yeah.
and it's like, no, we want to. So like that's the thing. I get if that was maybe 15 years ago, that's what the kind of like implied next step was because that's kind of like what they lead it into.
Hmm.
Um, but like I get if I mean I don't know. This movie is messed up. It's dark. The kills are great. It is super gory, but it is if you like horror films and
Oh,
stuff, and like
so good.
it's a fun ride. It's a fun time.
Yeah.
Doing a scene like that may not be fun anymore.
Yeah.
Having something like that may not be fun. Um, so like I get where you switch it. You still give us that scene and everything in there because dude, that slice to the Achilles is like that might honestly be worse.
Yeah,
Like honestly seeing that like to this day I like to this minute I still like
yeah.
cringe about it. Um but this was great. I loved it. And then we get a cut back to McCurdy and like Jessica and like the non-Hanover because this happened at the Hanover South
Yeah.
gymnasium and like football place and stuff. So we're now back where Jess, Gabby, Evan, they're supposed to be having a football game and everything, I believe, even. And that McCarty guy has his musket that's getting ready, that he's like blowing off all over the place. I mean, he shoots it once, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. He's openly firing off a gun, a
Yeah.
musket at
Like
that.
right next to the cops too.
Yeah.
They're like standing
Like,
inches away from
like right next to the cops. And the cops are just like, God damn it, McCarty, what are you doing?
him.
He's like, yeah, there's nothing in there. It's just gunpowder. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know if that makes it any better. I don't know if that makes it any better, man. You're just firing off a musket like willy
Yeah.
nilly. I don't know. I got questions. Um, but then we get Evan and Gabby. They go back inside. Game's been canceled because the Hanover people were killed, and that's been notified. Um, Gabby and Evan go inside. They get abducted
Good
by
jump
good
scare when
old.
they do too. Good jump scare.
Yeah, that's a great one when he just like turns the corner. He's
Yeah.
like Evan sees the like recycling paper container and is like, "Hey, that's weird," and then bam!
Yeah. And then
Oh,
right there. Yeah.
it's so good. Then Jesco starts looking for him. She gets chased by John Carver, makes it out barely, but
That scene is pretty cool too. The beauty school scene.
oh, dude, right? That beauty school knockout scene, awesome.
Yeah.
That actually is um, a really great thing.
Yeah.
Like the small mistakes and stuff is
Yeah.
like what I'm kind of thinking of here because he gets like sprayed, like John Carver gets sprayed in the face. So if it's like somebody around him, like are they taking the mask off and
Yeah.
stuff? So it's interesting to see all of that. Ryan and Bobby, of course, go back at it.
Yeah.
Um, that cat and mouse game though for that barber scene or the beauty shop scene is really great.
Yeah.
And then like she just slightly knocks the one thing over, and oh
And then he
man,
just bashes 30 fake heads where her head like just was.
yeah, yeah, like straight up baseball swinging for the
Like her
fences.
brain would have flown out of her skull.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Like,
Her head is not attached to her shoulders
yeah.
anymore if he's making contact there. But then we get outside and we get Ryan and Bobby going at it. We get the admission from Ryan that Doug was just selling them at Adderall. And then Yulia, our little Russian mobster
Mm-hmm.
here, is taken away by her dad.
Yeah.
And that's just awesome. Like her being uh and this whole like next little bit is like kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like Jess and Scuba going to McCarty for a gun.
Yeah.
And they're calling Yulia while she's like getting ready to leave for like Florida or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going back and forth on that. And she's just like, I got to take care of things. I'll call you back like when I'm ready.
All right. So now we're at Yulia's house, and so we see Yulia's dad has a cop kind of watching over the house, kind of just a typical fat old cop that doesn't look like he would be able to help with anything, but he's there. And then you have Yulia's dad, who literally looks like a Russian mobster and could kill anyone with two fingers. But he has some headphones on with some classical music blasting, and you got Yulia in her room, and she's FaceTiming Scuba and Jessica, and whatever. She's just talking about leaving, and then goes back downstairs, and we see the cop gets killed with a silent shot or a tranquilizer gun, something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, that was the first time where I was like, okay, now it's there's only a specified amount of people that could have like a silenced gun or a trank gun, you know? Like there's
Hmm.
only so many people. I think that's where it kind of started me to tip to like who I thought the killer was, but regardless, moving on. Then they have this kind of suspenseful scene where Yulia's like calling for her dad. She's like, "Dad, Dad, Dad," and he's like not responding, and she's like, "Oh shit." Like, what's like, is Carver here? And then all of a sudden he pops out of a room with his headphones on, playing the classical music, whatever. Um, so Yulia's dad gets killed, um, by Carver, and she FaceTimes Scuba back, is talking to him, whatever. And in the back of the FaceTime, you see Carver come in with two corn holders and stick them in Yulia's ears, just like that.
Oh.
And then not only that, it goes to a ringing noise. So it literally makes you feel like you got stabbed in the ears. Like scene starts ringing, she's trying to run down, whatever. Scuba and Jessica are like, "Oh my god, we need to go over there and try to help her ASAP." So she's running down the stairs. Scuba and Jessica like bust through the door, and Carver has her like hostage. Scuba has a gun, and Yulia's yelling, "Shoot him! Shoot him! Shoot him!" Whatever. And Scuba tries to shoot, and it's on safety. So
Mhm.
so that fucked them. And Carver, their house was getting redone. Yulia's house was getting redone. So then Carver takes Yulia and turns on a table saw and throws her on top of it, which was crazy, ridiculous to watch. Carver gets away. Scuba and Gabby are shocked. Scuba's really shocked,
Mhm.
like
Dude, like
lost.
Scuba is like, just what do I do? What do I do? And like
Yeah.
the cut upness of Yulia there
Oh my god,
was,
it looks like sausage like coming out of her stomach.
yeah,
It's like ridiculous.
yeah, that was some disturbing stuff, without a doubt. But so as a guy who has made a horror film or two in his own right, and I love it. I love seeing good stuff like that, and having like high quality things like that, because I'm used to making intestines by putting fake blood into a condom, man. So
Yeah.
like, that's the real stuff, sausage in there.
Yeah.
um, but like, so this is all great. This is all great, and then we finally get the like, we leave here, and we get like the like powwow kind of before the final thing here, almost, of Jess, Scuba, and like Jessica's family and stuff are all in Jessica's house, I believe.
Yeah.
And her dad's like, "All right, we're closing the store. I made the decision. It's not going to be open." Everybody was protesting it anyhow with all these killings and stuff. It like, we're closing it down. We're not, no, we're not doing this anymore. We're not going to do the parade or anything. And that's where they were like, "Whoa." And Jessica's like, "Whoa, okay, closing the store? Yes, that is the right thing to do. Not doing the parade, though, Dad." And you. And when she says that, it means Kathleen,
Yeah.
her stepmom. So when they devise a plan to try and coax John Carver back into the warehouse,
Yeah.
um, so that they can trap him there. They'll go on the parade float and everything. He won't attack them on there, but like, we'll come back to the warehouse, make them think that it's all empty, and then we'll be ready here to spring a trap for him. And
Yeah.
then so then we get the next big set piece that was also a part of the original trailer, and it is the parade itself. And we have one of the single greatest deaths in this movie and in that trailer. And
Yeah.
it is unfortunate that Lionel here, buddy, my guy, just as the turkey, loses his head.
Yeah.
And
The parade scene is awesome.
it's so good.
It's so good.
I mean, even the idea of having like the crazed clown mask on is
Instead of
awesome.
Carver like totally throwing them off, like
Yeah,
everybody expected a Carver or something, and he comes as a fucking crazy, scary clown. Come on.
it's a great curveball. It is truly a great curveball because, Like, and I get, and like, again, thinking about it, when you start thinking about this stuff a little bit too much, why would they do that? There's a real chance as John Carver dressing up with what we end up seeing with Mitch Collins and like his crew, they do the the Thanksgiving, not thanks buying stoppage of
Yeah,
the parade and stuff like that you mentioned earlier. So like it's really great that like he could have been stopped as John Carver earlier, especially like after that whole stoppage of stuff. Like they would have been checking people, seeing if they're gonna do something else, and then it's like, Sheriff,
yeah,
why, what, why are you dressed up like this?
yeah.
And yeah, so like, oh man, it's great. And but the smoke bombs, and they get, dude, they get they get all funneled into the police car and then just
Yeah,
tranked in the
yeah.
chest, straight up knocked out. And then we get the cooking with Carver, man.
Oh,
And how
so
about
good
this?
too. So good.
Or hold on, do you have anything else about the parade that you want to say?
Not really, other than, I think the equipment used by the clown kind of gets you to the, like the smoke grenades, and the train kind of gets you to leaning towards who you might think the killer is.
Right.
Only so many
um
people have smoke bombs.
right, and like legit like flash grenades and smoke bombs and
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
Like it's not like something that you're buying from like
Walmart or something.
like a simple little fireworks store or something like
Yeah.
that. It's nothing like that. um oh man, then we get cooking with Carver. And this is awesome because this is where we get to see Kathleen, who has also been kidnapped, who I don't believe was actually in that police car. She might have been, but I don't know if she actually was. I honestly thought it was just Scuba and Jess, Evan, and Gabby.
No, Evan and Gabby were
Oh,
already
Evan and
taken.
Gabby were already taken. That's a good point.
Kathleen's in the car. I think it's Scuba,
Kathleen, her
Kathleen.
dad, and then
Yeah,
Scuba and Jess, then all in the
yeah.
car. Okay. Um, and either way, we get her. We've got her legs up like you would any other turkey, getting ready to be served, basted, buttered, and
Mm-hmm. The
seasoned.
salt on the eyelids. Ooh, that
Uh,
even made me like cringe a little bit.
Dude, I was actually thinking about the little garnish on the toe, and I was like, "Oh my god, you actually put a garnish on her!" Oh
Yeah.
god, this is so gross. Um, and like this is this is tough sometimes. Like, but again, the cat and mouse game that we get here,
So good.
like I forget what it is that like he actually just walks out of the room and like goes to get a different mask and like into something or whatever, and like that gives her
Yeah.
enough time to get up off the table, and they start that little cat and mouse game after he so nicely and gingerly garnished and
Garnished her. Yeah.
salted and buttered her.
Yeah.
But and so that cat and mouse game's great, but she escapes, starts running out of there, and you think she has it for a second,
Oh, it's so good.
and then he javelin throws the pitchfork into her back. Now,
Yeah.
this is a shot that was in the trailer too, briefly. Um, I honestly thought from the trailer, more messed up, that she was actually being dragged back
By the pitchfork.
by the pitchfork. Turns
Yeah.
out in the movie she's actually being dragged back by her legs, which also makes sense. The pitchfork probably would have
Would
ripped
have
out
came
if he
out.
was trying to
Yeah.
do that. I don't think like it stuck to her and it like clearly shocked her and knocked her down. But I don't know if it like
No, I
was
would have came out, I think. He tried to drag
yeah,
her
yeah.
up the stairs and stuff because there's like front stairs.
Yeah, there were stairs. Yeah, there were like three of them or four of them, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Either way, man, that javelin throw by Carver,
Oh, that was so sick.
insane. And then he cooks her,
Yeah.
gets her in the oven, puts the meat popper, like
Yeah, she's
the
like begging. He opens it again and she's like begging for help, and then he just sticks it in and closes it.
yep. That is absolutely insane. We also get the bit where where she finds the cheerleader in
Yeah,
the in the fridge, and the
the
cheerleader's like,
wine cooler.
help me," and she's like, "I'll be back. I'm coming back," and she's just like The blood
standing
is
in her
just
blood.
leaking out of this cheerleader.
Yeah. Well,
um,
that also led to another like little suspenseful thing because he sees her footprints and she's standing on the other side of the wall,
yeah,
and he's in like the little space where you could see him, and then he goes behind the wall. You hear a door close, so you think, oh, maybe he went downstairs, maybe like he's kind of freaking out, and then you see the pitchfork go an inch next to her face through the wall, and I was like, oh,
yep.
like I kind of expected it to happen, but then you see it happen, and you're like, oh,
Right? That you know what? That is something that's one of those things that is a happy surprise every time because even when I watched it the second time around, it wasn't even something that like I was like, "Oh, I forgot about that." That like we had this moment of it, for them. And so then we get a cut back to the police, which is always weird. It's always
yeah,
weird in this movie when we get a weird cut back to the police because it's like I appreciate the investigative portion of it, but I also I want to at this point I just want to live with John Carver and what he's doing right now.
yeah.
But again, we find out that the police know nothing. We've got another call to the Cordage Park.
And
They
there's a
find
decoy.
out,
They had a decoy call.
yeah, and that yeah, they had the decoy call with the
It was a
screen.
phone set up to a monitor
Yeah,
that was recording another phone's like thing.
yeah, that was recording another camera's phones video.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was wild. Um and so they also find out that there's tunnels underneath Cordage Park. And so that was a way that used to connect all the buildings out there in that area or whatever. Now we've got the Thanksgiving table set. Dude, Kathleen all up on there, all cooked.
And no head.
No head. Very true. She lost her head in the
She went in
process.
the oven with a head, came out of the oven without one.
Great observation. And then we get John Carver kind of getting into his last big bad guy speech,
Yeah,
all of that kind of stuff that you get, and Kathleen, she's been cooking all day. Like,
yeah.
oh man, there are just some lines in this movie that I'm just
So
like
good. So good. The play on words for Thanksgiving of like all things, it's just like so funny.
mhm. And then you get, Jessica's dad, Thomas, he's puking up his guts from seeing this because he's also being served a piece of Kathleen herself.
Oh, and when he
Uh,
slices it, there's still like blood dripping off because like obviously he didn't drain the blood from her or anything. So it's
yeah.
like nasty.
And then, dude, even the cheerleader, he literally just puts a
Pokes it.
wine
Yeah.
corkscrew into her neck, turns it, rips it out, and and is like, and now we've got a nice cheer pairing with from our cheerleader. And
You
again, it's
might want
like,
to let it breathe.
yeah, you might want to let it breathe is awesome. And then it's just like, go on, we've got to say what we're thankful for. And and we're live, so make sure your words count. Evan, you can go first since your video inspired me to make mine. And Evan breaks the internet by getting his head broken.
Yeah.
That is a meat pulverizer that his head is crushed in
The
with.
closest thing I've ever seen to that is in like Midsommar when they smashed the old dude's face with the mallet when he breaks his legs jumping like just complete pulverization of
Yeah,
a head.
yeah, that's another tough one to see, but yeah, good point. Good draw on that. I Yeah, I can't really think of. Well, actually, you know what? Something we didn't talk about in the parade, though, that I am reminded of here is the dude driving.
Oh,
I don't know
oh,
how we didn't talk about this during the parade, and
oh.
so let's take a step back here. This is literally one of the gnarliest things in the world, dude. How about it?
Yeah.
So the float that Jessica Scuba and her family and everything are on is being driven by a truck like most floats are. They're typically like hitched up like a ball hinge thing like on a truck or whatever, and pulled behind that way. And for this, there's a guy driving a truck, and he's got his like two young. It's actually a grandfather. You hear
Yeah.
them actually say "grandpa"
Mm.
to this guy, and that's like even more messed up. But like he's like just driving around with his kids. Once the chaos ensues, the smoke grenades go off, the Lionel got his head cut off, and everything like that is happening, and all the chaos and whatnot is going on here. Uh, they
He like slams on the brakes and like the
yeah,
boat.
he slams on the brakes, and the front mast nose portion of the boat goes right through this dude's head and destroys the dude's nose.
Dude, I watched it the
And
second time and his nose is on top of the wooden thing when like his it's like the thing is like literally like right through the base, like right here.
yeah,
Like right and his nose is like up on top like
it's
and
some of the
and then he's squirting all it's all squirting on his grandchildren.
yeah.
Oh
The
yeah.
it's so funny. So funny. And but yeah. So now Evan breaks the internet by breaking his head. Uh if they we get John Carver also saying like, all of these people, they would still be alive if they weren't killed by you and Greedy
Yeah.
and taunting that went on. During all of this monologuing, Jess remembers that she has a ring that McCarty gave her. And it was a ring that saved her, McCarty's father, when he was a POW or something in a war, like captured or something. They vaguely talk about. And what happens is that there's a little like knife, basically, pointed
Little
edge,
triangle blade.
like serrated edge, basically, that pops out of that ring, and she's able to cut her ropes. She passes it off to Scuba as well. And while they're doing that, Carver is slowly making his way around, talking to her, like dad, and like putting the knife really close up to like her dad's like throat and everything. And they once Scuba like once that happens, then this is actually where he served Kathleen. He's actually served
Yeah.
Kathleen here,
And he's
and
still
then
throwing
it's
up.
at
What's his name is still throwing up. He's throwing up the whole
yeah,
scene.
yeah,
Just his dad.
Thomas, yeah,
Yeah.
all the time. It's so gross. Scuba then breaks free with Jess, and they're chased by Carver.
He breaks through the
And
wall, which is pretty cool. Carver.
yeah, when he jumps through the wall, dude, how about it, man? This whole chase is pretty great. Scuba gets a slice on his arm, but
Yeah.
overall is like okay, like no real harm. Jess hops over the fence 1 second before Carver is able to hit her
Yeah.
wrist with the axe, and like basically either cut her
Yeah.
arm or whatever off. She busts her ankle and is like running, or like not really running, but like gimping.
And she's in the
Uh
forest. I think it's important to note they're like running through a little forest kind of or like
yeah.
wildlife area. Some not like some suburban or anything like they're running like a wildlife desolate kind of
Yeah, that's
area.
true. They're out in the woods, they're out there because like where we end up finding out that they're at when her and Scuba break free before Scuba gets his arm sliced, she notices that they are in the Carver House, which is like a national like part of like a national historical monument, and also has like forests and stuff around it, kind of preserving the original way that that area probably looked back then anyhow. And so, yes, we've got a little foresty, wooded area back there that she is now trying to get through. And she she sees a downed cop by
Yeah.
a car, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, who is this? Who could this be?" She sees somebody slowly get into the warehouse, and turns out it's Sheriff. The guy that's been helping her, talking with her and her friends, kind of like in and out of this whole story from the beginning. even when Amanda Collins and Mitch Collins were having their Thanksgiving, he goes over there and brings his own little uh souffle maybe or something. I think he
Yeah,
brings
it could have been
no a
a
pie,
pie.
right?
Pie, yeah.
Just a pie. And so like he brings a pie and everything to it and does his own little thing there. And so Jess goes in, like checks, kind of sees that like the sheriff is okay, but he's not awake, like he's still
Yeah.
kind of knocked out. So Jess goes in to the Waterhouse, and she does grab the sheriff's gun
Yeah, she did.
and to go into the warehouse and make sure that like she had a little something to protect herself with. Jess sees Bobby take off a Carver mask
Yep.
and is like, oh no. And so anyone who's been team Ryan is good, Bobby is bad, feels
Yeah.
very vindicated right now and being like, we are right, we are right, we are right. Now we get the sheriff. He comes on back, grabs Jess, and it's like, hey, 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 whoa, 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 it's me.
Yeah, like give me the gun and you go outside.
Like, give me the gun. Let me take care of this, all of this in here. Yeah, you go back outside, get to safety. I called for backup. People will be here for you shortly and everything. And she just kind of she does give the weapon to the sheriff. Obviously, she's not gonna argue that point.
Yeah.
But we don't see Bobby. We see a hand pick up a hammer while Jess is then still like talking basically with the sheriff when the sheriff comes back from like looking around and everything.
You hear two
Uh
shots inside too.
huh?
Like when Jessica's outside, she hears two shots, and then the sheriff comes out and is like, "Oh, I think I got him."
Yeah.
But then like,
And you're right. And then they move back inside to like an office inside the warehouse basically to talk. Sheriff gives the rundown to her about what's going on with her dad, Scuba and Gabby. They're all at the hospital. Her dad is heavily sedated.
yeah,
Kathleen and Evan are obviously adios. They're
yep.
gone. Um, and Sheriff is like, all right, well, I'll kind of leave you to it for a couple of minutes and then we'll see you at the hospital. And then Sheriff also says to Jess, like, you're really brave. Couldn't have done this without you. Um, and she's just like, I need a minute. Can I just like still catch my breath? And he's like, sure, sure. She's pulling prickles. It's the only way I can describe these things, right? You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? You can find them in Stony Creek is like the place by us or where we grew up and stuff that would have had these things or whatever. These little prickles. They stick to your clothes. They kind of hurt. They're a little rough or scratchy sometimes,
She
but
got
not
him from the
anything like,
forest.
huh?
She got him from like running through the forest.
Right, exactly. Which is why the wooded area is important about it. And so she starts picking them off. We see a little bit, we get a cut of like stuff from evidence. We get a phone in evidence. It
Yeah.
appears to be Bobby's phone and everything like that, which is where they like had where Carver was logged into an account for. So it's seeming to believe now that Bobby was really Carver at this point. And we get a voiceover of the sheriff, you know, of like it's the small details, it's the little things, the
And
small
like keep it.
mistakes
I'll keep the info between us and like,
that yeah that could keep they get these people caught and stuff. And Jessica, as the sheriff throws a paper towel and misses the garbage can and reaches down for it, she has this like flashback, all of this, and but what does she see? What is the trigger of it? The same prickles she just pulled off her sleeve and stuff off herself is on the sheriff.
they're on the bottom of his pants, like like literally the last inch of his pants. There's like a few prickles, and that's where she picked up on it.
Yep, and that's where she sees it right there. And Jessica knows. And then the sheriff kind of like looks at Jessica, looks down, like kind of at the garbage, like kind of looking around at something. then looks back at Jessica in acknowledgement, knowing that she knows, and
Yeah.
now letting her know that he knows that she knows. And let me tell you, the ticker is going, man, because like this is great. And God, we get the long backstory now. The bad guy monologue.
The motive.
Yes, the motive of that. He lived with. He had a wife. Wife left him. Lived with Mitch and Amanda. Amanda put him back together. They were having an affair. She, excuse me, was getting ready to leave Mitch. She was pregnant with a child,
Yep.
which makes her death obviously like her
That
death was
much.
already tragic, but even more tragic.
Yeah, because he says
At
they took her family
Yeah,
or his family.
yeah, they took his family and whatnot. So like, it's crazy,
Yeah.
and like then I like you also get a little bit of like all the other like kind of weird stuff that Patrick Dempsey was like saying like the second time around, like at the Carver house with like Kathleen. He says, Kathleen, you'd make a wonderful dinner.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh,
Well, even
oh.
this one was before the Black Friday, but I like that it was still in the movie because it's like literally in one of the very first scenes he talks about like being like oh like a sheriff whatever, and he's like, but I do know my way around a kitchen. And this is like
Mhm,
even before Black Friday, before he even has the motive. But it's just like those kind of lines like that.
mhm. Yeah, that he knows his way around the kitchen. That's a great point. Holy shit. And then like after the diner kill, like we'll keep this info between us, matter of life and death and all of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff that he was like talking about. Um and like, yeah, dude. That's so good. Um so now we also get the chase. But in this admittance of everything, Jess was recording with Bobby's
With
phone
yeah.
when she gets him to admit that he killed everybody and this is what he was doing. And it, it like, oh man, it's just so good. And I do love the use of cell phones in this, because like cell phones in a lot of ways ruin movies and their like abilities to like tell a story and stuff, especially like a horror film trying to track people. Like, you can do this fairly easily nowadays,
Yeah.
unless you're like really smart and really methodical
Unless you're like a
about like,
cop and know how to like throw cops off. Like
yeah,
unless
right. And so like it makes sense though that it is a cop that is the serial killer here that's getting away with all
yeah.
this stuff, or was getting away with all this stuff up until this point. And so they start running around. Bobby shows up, throws a hammer as a distraction, breaks the window. They're able to get out of the room. They start filling up the parade balloons. The sheriff on top of one of the floats is like, "There are no more leftovers, or there will
Yeah.
be no more left. There will be no leftovers." And it's just like, I love it. I just
Yeah.
love it so much. Um, the stepmother, he gives a great stepmother like dinner line, is like awesome. Um, but then we get the like, all of this is kind of like crazy. Like the hooking up of the tow cable to the truck to like a pillar,
Yeah.
and then earlier in the movie when McCurdy like fired off his musket, we get the odd thing from Jess being like, "Oh yeah, my dad." She's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, muskets don't bother me." Because Gabby goes to her, it's like, "Doesn't that freak you out or anything, like the shooting?" And she's like, "No, with all these damn commercials for my dad that we do every year, he actually made me learn how to fire and load a musket. So I actually have a
Yeah.
useless talent of knowing how to load a musket." And what does that line tell us? It's going to be important later, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen. and it is. Because what does Jessica do? She takes the McCurdy maybe
Yeah, I don't
musket.
know. It may have been from like a float or something wherever they were. I forget exactly where she picks it up.
Again, we're talking live muskets that can just be shot at any point, just lying around a warehouse in Boston.
Yeah,
I've got some questions. I got questions here. And but so she packs it up, she shoots the balloon that she was filling up with helium, and it blows up the whole building.
yeah,
It's enough force that like burns slash like cuts that like metal rope that was connecting the tow truck, Bobby's tow truck. They're able to like release that. You know, Bobby goes on his way, still hates Ryan. Ryan and
yeah,
Jess are together. That was also something that was really interesting that they didn't actually have like the awkward or weird like, oh Ryan, you're out of here from Jessica now. Like she's still
yeah,
gonna be with him. Bobby was just like her sidekick in this. But to be
yeah,
fair, he also had a reason for revenge in some way
yeah,
as well. Like his arm got just as, his life got just as much turned upside down as the sheriff's life. And
yeah.
you know, so we get that. Um and we get the last final line from the firefighters being like, there's no way
Oh,
anyone could survive.
classic.
No one could survive. There's no evidence of a body or anything. Yeah, classic, right?
How else can you end the first movie of what could be like a sequel or a franchise? You gotta.
Right? Well, then it's like I found out even like a week or two ago before it dropped digitally. Eli Roth, I follow him on Instagram and stuff, and he made the announcement that Thanksgiving 2 has been given the green light. So they're writing a Thanksgiving 2. It's due out in 2025. Pretty excited for
Probably
that.
around Thanksgiving
We
time.
will
I think it'll
get
be great.
we will do another Thanksgiving commentary track for that. I've been waiting 15 years for this flick, and so I
Yeah,
freaking loved it. I really did. I actually really like that they set it in modern times as opposed to what they could have done and set it in like the
like
idea
pilgrimage.
of like a 70s kind of area in doing this. I like the idea of this being a modern horror franchise now. I thought it was great. It was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. The kills were great. It was really funny. What'd you think overall?
Yeah, overall, the kills were awesome and creative. You really haven't seen like it's not like someone just getting like stabbed or something in the back or stabbed in the chest. They're creative. They're definitely creative. You don't see it all the time. The movie is what, like an hour 45. It doesn't drag at any point, and it also does not feel rushed at
Yeah,
all. Feel like everything got in there that needed to be, and stuff that didn't need to be there wasn't.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. Um, what do you have? Do you have any gripes with this movie?
yeah,
Anything else that you're like this does it just doesn't add up to me? Something like that. Not maybe necessarily a gripe or something that like you hated, but like
yeah,
something that
no.
you're like this doesn't add up.
Nothing really took away from the film too much. Like I said, I think they kind of pulled a punch on the trampoline, but that could have been maybe a little bit too much. I just think if she landed on the splits, that would have been like Jesus Christ. But
Hmm.
and then the only other one is when Jess is running away from Carver in the forest and she jumps over the fence. She like cracks her ankle like bad, and then like the next scene, she's just like walking pretty normally, like at a fast pace too. She's like moving pretty normally towards the sheriff, and then like the rest of the movie, it's like her ankle like nothing happened. Like even
Yeah,
when she's like kind of running, like getting on the truck and like nothing happened. So that's kind of annoying because like they could have just made the ankle like not look like it was that bad when it happened, or just like taken that out, I guess. But regardless,
yeah. Um, all right, man. Any other final thoughts before we go?
no, I just say you gotta see the movie for the kills. It's unique. It's something you haven't seen before,
Yeah, it's good stuff. Well,
and
I
it's funny.
appreciate.
The movie's scary, suspenseful, and funny all like together. A good mix. Like I said, it's probably one of my favorite horror movies, right up there with like Scream.
Yeah, it totally is. It was so great. It was well worth the wait. Appreciate you doing this with me, buddy. So this we're gonna wrap it up. I am Jimmy with the Triple C Collective, and this is,
I'm Eddie, Jimmy's younger brother.
and we want to thank you all for joining us. Please like and subscribe to this video and to our channel. And Not as always, but on this day, there are no leftovers.